Hey there, everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave, the host here of the Dark Stuff channel on YouTube. Thanks a lot for checking out my latest video. And this week, I am, I'm jumping in on this new trend that's going around the vinyl community. It's a great thread. The 10 most played albums in your collection. Let's do this. So I've noticed a lot of people doing this current thread that's going around, your 10 most played albums in your catalog, in your collection, I should say, and decided that I would make my entry here. Now, I don't really keep track of what I listen to. I mean, it's just not something that I've ever done, and it would be a really daunting task to try to figure out my most played albums of like all time. So what I did was I'm estimating. And I decided to use just the 2020s. So from the beginning of 2020 till current, these are the albums that I believe that I have played the most, the 10 most the records that I played the most. Now I also created a list that I'm going to put up and keep up on the screen of my 10 most played songs. Now that's something that's digital. I went onto my iTunes and I figured out what my 10 most played songs are in that same time period. Now, that doesn't include, of course, playing a CD. That doesn't include playing it on record. So this is, again, not exact science, but I think you get the gist, right? Okay, no rankings or anything. These are just in alphabetical order. So here are my 10 most played records. I'm going to start with AC/DC, Flick of the Switch. Now, that's a Flick of the Switch is in no way, shape, or form AC/DC's best record, nor my favorite record of theirs. But for some reason, it's just been my go-to for the last couple of years. You know, even though Flick of the Switch isn't necessarily considered like among the best AC/DC albums, I've always really loved it. I think that it has, first of all, the song Flick of the Switch and Guns for Hire are among the best AC/DC tracks in the Brian Johnson era, no question. I happen to really like Rising Power, Nervous Shakedown, Deep in the Hole, Bedlam in Belgium. So I might even say that this is better than For Those About to Rock. I mean, I feel like it has a little bit more of they ditched Robert John Mutt Lange as a producer who had done the past 3 records, and they produced it themselves, which most people consider to be a mistake. But for the last couple of years, when I want to crank AC/DC, this has been my go-to.
Festival cutters.
Okay, next up alphabetically, and my 10 most played would be this one, Fiona Apple, Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Now, this is 100% my pandemic record, and it was a lot of people's pandemic record. It came out right about the time of all the lockdowns in the late spring of 2020. And in fact, the album was supposed to be released later in that year, but because everybody was like stuck at home, not everybody, but most everybody was sort of stuck at home and, wasn't able to go to work, wasn't able to do a lot of stuff. She just told the record company, hey, just put the record out now on the streamers and let people hear it. And I think that made it to be one of the biggest albums of the year. I mean, I don't know how that translates to sales because I don't really understand how streaming pays out to artists. It seems like it doesn't really at all, but that's a side note. Anyways, this album is amazing. It was her first album in 8 years. And prior to that, it was 7 years between albums, so she's hardly prolific, but Fiona Apple doesn't care. She operates on her own time frame, on her own schedule, 100%. And because she has not released a bad record in her entire almost 30-year career, I mean, she's coming up on 30s in maybe 3 years, 27-year career. This album is special. I mean, I play Fiona a lot, but this one is the one that she made in her house. It's got a lot of just unique percussion and just it's a very, very different kind of record. The song Shamika I played a million times, and I believe it's on my list of my 10 most played songs, even digitally. Again, so Fiona Apple, Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Okay, this is one of the most obvious ones on here. The Bangles, All Over the Place. I play this album constantly in the last 3 years, really in the last almost 40 years since I first got it. You can tell, you can see all this ring wear on this one. It's a lot. I play it digitally, I play it on vinyl, I play it in the car, you know, whatever, any place. I love this record so much. If you only were going to get one Bangles album, or somebody asked me, like, what is the song, what is the record that somebody should get, like, tell me, I have this impression of the Bangles, but I want to think something differently, this is the one. It's the perfect mesh of great, like, 60s influenced pop mixed with a little punky energy and just a lot of early 80s kind of flair. It is fun. Bangles, All Over the Place. Play the crap out of this one. These cases, some of these, my most played record isn't necessarily my favorite by that artist, but in this case it actually is. Blood and Chocolate from Elvis Costello and the Attractions is actually my favorite Costello album. I play this all the time. It used to be kind of my go-to record if I was in a sad mood, or if I was feeling depressed, usually like a relationship-y type thing. This would be the go-to. But now I don't even need that. You know, it's like that. I don't need it to sort of soothe me when I'm feeling bad like that. I can just play it all the time, and I do all the time. Every song on this is good. I actually, in this case, prefer the CD only because the Rykodisc version has a bunch of great bonus tracks on here. But the vinyl is excellent anyways, but it still has Uncomplicated, Hope You're Happy Now, Tokyo Storm Warning. Every song in here is good. Home Is Anywhere You Hang Your Head, I Want You. I mean, I pulled this one a lot because it does have a more guitar-oriented sound. That's not necessarily the focus of Costello's music, but occasionally he'll do a more guitar. The guitar is more upfront, and this is one of those albums. So when you hear a song like Tokyo Storm Warning, it does sound more like rock than you're getting with a normal Attractions record. Next one I don't have on vinyl. I can't believe it, but I have a bunch of 12 inches, but I don't have it. I'm talking about Faith No More, Angel Dust. This would be a constant go-to for 30 plus years. I play the crap out of this still probably as much now as I did then. When I did my musical DNA video, I spun it probably like 3 or 4 times just while I was thinking about that video. Faith No More is one of my favorite bands, but this was them at their absolute pinnacle, the peak, the best album they ever did. Every song on this is great. This is the Japanese version, which does have them doing And the Worm Turns, which is a song from their first album, but they re-recorded it, and then Mike Patton does the vocal on it. It came out later on like a best of, but at the time, the Japanese version was different, and that was exclusive to it. But anyways, fantastic record. I play the crap out of that one. In keeping with that theme of, it's not always your favorite album by the band that you play the most, but definitely it's been, for me, Kiss, Creatures of the Night. Now, this is among my favorites by Kiss. It's not like, oh, this is some sad album. I mean, no, Kiss, Creatures of the Night, this is a fucking awesome album. And it's gotten a boost because it did have a box set, 40th anniversary box set that came out in the fall of 2022. I did a video on that. It's actually one of my most popular videos. I'm pretty happy about that. But Creatures is just a killer album. The last album that they wore the makeup on in their original kind of era, they took the makeup off on the next record. And despite the fact that the band didn't have a lead guitar player when they made it, I mean, you see Ace Frehley on the cover, but he wasn't in the band really. I mean, he didn't participate in the writing, he didn't play on the record. Despite that, the album is amazingly cohesive, and it was like a massive return to form for Kiss, who had done 2 really kind of weak records the previous years and were really just kind of off track, and they brought it all back together on this one. And there are a bunch of guest lead guitar players. I mean, they were actually at one point bringing in guys and then playing them one of the songs on the record, having them give a go at the solo, and if it sounded pretty good, they might give them an audition for the band. You know, ultimately that spot went to Vincent, but they were trying a ton of stuff on this album, and those are all you'd think that would make a mark against it, that it wouldn't end up being very good, but no way. Excellent. The writing is fantastic, and it's funny because The song War Machine, which closes out the album, side 2, heavy, brutal song, amazing. Gene Simmons does it. The band still plays it live to this day, is a co-write with Bryan Adams. Yeah. Summer of '69, Bryan Adams, and it is killer. I mean, God, it's so good. I don't even know what was going on with Bryan Adams back in 1982. I do play a lot of replacements, and I like their entire catalog, start to finish. But yeah, I would say if we're looking at the last 3 years, it's 100% Sorry Ma. That's the era that I like. I like the guitar interplay with Bob and Paul back then. I love the punk energy, and Paul, just his lyrics were so great back then. I mean, they were great all along, but I mean, he had it at like age 19. Unreal.
The birds will cry, I let them cry.
Next one is St. Vincent, self-titled. This is her 4th album, and mine is, of course, signed from when I met her back in 2014. And did my interview and stuff. This album, at first, I wasn't sure I liked it. I mean, I was a fan of hers from Jump Street, from the day one, the first album, and Actor is probably my favorite album overall. But I now find myself playing this one all the time. I mean, I love the sound of it. I like the whole persona that she was adopting at the time with this, with the white hair and doing this whole like detached kind of rock star vibe that she was trying out at the time. And all the songs are great. Her guitar is still excellent. It was before she decided to ditch being a guitar hero. Every song, like Birth in Reverse, fantastic. Rattlesnake, Prince Johnny is great. It's part of a continuing saga of using this Johnny character. Bring Me Your Loves. I mean, just excellent. Again, Actor would be my favorite album of hers, but there's no question in the last couple of years, this is my go-to for St. Vincent, and one that I play all the time. I mean, the groove on it is, God, it's so good. An album, surprisingly, I've never owned on vinyl. I don't know why, but I just never picked it up, even though I think there was a reissue a few years ago. I'm talking about Mezcal Head from Swervedriver. This is their second album from 1993. Widely considered to be a shoegaze classic, although I would just dispute that. Not that it's not a classic, but that it's shoegaze. It really isn't. It sounds like a cross between Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr., but they do get the shoegaze tag, and that's okay. I refer to them that way a lot anyways. This album is everything about their sound. I love the production. I like every song. I like the guitar playing and the guitar interplay with Adam Franklin and Jimmy, and the rhythm section was really tight on this one. And again, just the songs are so perfect. Duel, of course, Swervedriver's absolute best song comes from this record, and Last Train to Satansville is among their best stuff. I think every track on this is fantastic, and I can't believe that I've never owned it on vinyl, but it's the truth. And I've been playing this pretty much constantly for 30 years, but since we're just limiting it to the last 3 and change, still doesn't make any difference. My final one would be Van Halen, 1984. Now, another case, not necessarily my favorite Van Halen album in their catalog. I only like the David Lee Roth stuff. So I only like the first 6 and then Different Kind of Truth and the Live in Tokyo. I don't want to hear from Van Hagar or the Gary Sharon. I'm just not interested in having a debate about it either. If I had to say, my favorite is probably Fair Warning, or maybe the first one. But the reason why I play this one just so much is just, it is so fun. And it was the end of an era. It was the end of the original era of Van Halen. They never got back together. I mean, I know Roth came back in 2005, but Michael Anthony didn't come back. So it was never the original 4 again after this particular album. There's a great documentary that's out there right now, or a YouTube documentary about the making of the album, and this was the first one that they made out in Eddie Van Halen's studio. Eddie did take kind of control because he was upset about Diver Down with the amount of cover songs and stuff, so that's why there are no covers on this one. And it is the ultimate the conflict between Roth and Eddie Van Halen that came to a head during this album, but it's what made the album so perfect. Panama, Jump, Hot for Teacher. I mean, every song is great. The whole second side, I think, is. I mean, I'll Wait. I've never really loved, but I don't mind it. A little more of a hint of what was coming with Van Hagar, but with Roth to counter it, it's still kind of cool. Well, I know that fans of Van Hagar will tell you that their album, that the Hagar era, did better, sold better, whatever. But I do know this. The two Diamond Van Halen albums, meaning the ones that have sold 10 million or more, the two biggest selling Van Halen albums in their catalog, are the first one in 1984. So that's not the Van Hagar era. But, that's just a side note. Anyways, folks, those are my 10 most played albums. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.